Paul Manafort, former Trump campaign chairman, is now a criminal defendant, accused of hiding millions in foreign consulting fees to avoid paying taxes and failing to register as a foreign lobbyist. Robert Mueller's prosecutors say Manafort and his business partner and right-hand man in the campaign, Rick Gates, earned more than $75 million from 2006 to 2015 lobbying for Viktor Yanukovych, the former president of Ukraine, Vladimir Putin's man in that position, but put the money in banks on island nations outside the U.S. to hide it from the government. But the indictment says nothing about Manafort's role in the Trump campaign. His lawyer angrily calls the charges ridiculous.
Well, I think you all saw today that President Donald Trump was correct. There is no evidence that Mr. Manafort or the Trump campaign colluded with the Russian government.
Manafort and Gates pleaded not guilty during a brief court appearance today. The judge set their bail and ordered them to remain in home detention. Prosecutors say Manafort spent some of his millions on 4 homes in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Long Island, as well as in suburban Washington, D.C., and accuse him of spending $900,000 for antique rugs, nearly $1.4 million on clothes, and more than $7.6 million in home improvements. Legal experts say the charges could persuade both men to help with Mueller's investigation of Russian interference in the election.
These defendants are looking at decades in prison, so there's a tremendous incentive for them to come to prosecutors and say, we'd like to cooperate.
And in a surprise, potentially more important, we learned today that a Trump campaign volunteer advisor, George Papadopoulos, has admitted that he was in touch with Russians during the campaign, who said they had Kremlin contacts and could offer, quote, dirt on Hillary Clinton, including thousands of emails.
It reveals that a Trump campaign advisor was communicating with well-connected Russians who are offering him dirt on Hillary Clinton, including emails as far back as April 2016. That's well before we knew that the Russians had hacked the Democrats.
Prosecutors revealed today that he was arrested 3 months ago at Dulles Airport and has been cooperating with Mueller's investigators ever since. He pleaded guilty 3 weeks ago, admitting he lied to the FBI by denying that he was involved with the campaign when he communicated with the Russians, who wanted to set up a meeting between Trump and Vladimir Putin during the campaign, which never happened. Court documents say a campaign official forwarded one of his emails indicating that the campaign was aware of what he was doing. Law enforcement officials say that campaign official was Paul Manafort. A spokesman for Rick Gates says tonight that he welcomes the opportunity to confront the charges in court.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.